Hello, everybody. This is Chris Lindenberger with Texas Homeless Network. This will be the webinar for the April Bloc talk, and right now we have about 21 attendees with us. We had about 80-something signed up, so hopefully in the next 5 minutes or so we should jump up quite a bit. So I have about 5 till. We will start right at 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chris Lindenberger with the Texas Homeless Network, and I want to welcome you today to the April Bloc talk. Today we're very excited. As you know, the Bloc talk kind of refers to the fact that we all represent our communities. We all function in communities as we address homelessness throughout the state of Texas. So we're very excited today to bring you Christina Fulsom from Tyler, Texas, who's going to talk more about community organization, really engaging constituents and bringing together and bridging together just networks within those communities. So I'm going to take a little bit of time before we have her give her presentation to just do a little bit of housekeeping. And then we'll, it's kind of the same old thing that we usually do. So a little bit of housekeeping, then get into presentation. Then we'll have a little bit of question and answer time, and then follow up. So just so everybody knows and to remember that your microphone will be muted during the webinar. This is so that we can reduce feedback. We found that if we have everybody talk, if people are talking over each other, and many times if we just have people with unmuted microphones where you're just picking up feedback all over the place. We're getting, you know, cars honking horns and dogs barking and all kinds of fun stuff. Also, I want to remind you that during this webinar, you can type in a question into the questions box on the right-hand corner, on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can submit that at any time. You can submit multiple questions if you'd like. All general questions can be answered right away. We have Craig Fierro that will be actually helping to answer questions. And then any that are a little more complex or that we think will be better answered through Christina, we will save those towards the end of the webinar. We'll have her address those questions at that time. So feel free to submit your questions at any time, and rest assured that we will get to them. We do have a little bit of a process kind of go through them, and that is the reason for that. And the reason for that is that a lot of times we have people submitting the same question, and so we're trying to make sure that we can get the concise answers that we need from our presenter. Also, if you were not able to be on this call via webinar, maybe you're only on this call via conference call, like on your phone, we will be recording this webinar, and so probably within the next couple of days we'll be sending out an email to everyone on the training list and everyone that registered with that link to that recording. So you can go back and view this. I believe we're leaving those recordings up for a limited amount of time, but it's a pretty good amount of time that you can kind of get on there and kind of watch the webinar, refamiliarize yourself. And also feel free, I know at the end of Christina's PowerPoint she will have her email address. You can feel free to you know, send questions directly to her as well. So this month we have Christina, who is with the East Texas Human Needs Network. And one of the reasons why we really sought to bring Christina to you guys is that starting in February and doing these webinars, the webinar over the mental health, helping homelessness with mental health issues piece, which is SOAR, and the webinar we did around coordinated assessment or access, we've had many questions around communities and involving communities. Really, many questions that I've had posed to me is, you know, I live out in a certain area of Texas and I need help, you know, branching people together. I need help kind of pulling resources together. And so we really are trying to address many of these questions during these webinars by bringing other presenters and talking, not just individuals that can speak just to housing or speak to just to mental health issues or just to implements within your coalition or your COC. But we also wanted to bring individuals that can speak to how do we do some community organizing, how do we kind of form those relationships. And so Christina, we're happy to have her with us today. And as you can see up on your screen, she comes from the East Texas Human Needs Network. Their mission is to strengthen services to meet diverse human needs throughout the collaboration of individuals and organizations. There's some more information there. You can read that. However, what I'd like to say is coming from that Tyler area where Christina's from and where East Texas Human Needs Network resides. They have been a really great group in organizing and pulling together resources. And so just the great work that Christina has done up there just made us really think that it would be great to get her to come to you today and speak to that and have a conversation around these pieces. So Christina is the founder and self-identified Network Weaver. And she strives to draw isolated groups into working relationships together as an effective network. And so does this by combining community organizing skills with collaborative leadership and to help organize diverse and creative ideas of numerous contributors without centralizing power and decision making. And so this is really key, and I'm sure Christina will speak to this, but essentially involving as many players as possible, bringing them together, and having everybody really be part of the group and part of the decision-making process. So without going any further, I would like to introduce Christina. So Christina, I'm going to give the control over to you. Are you there?
I am. Do I have control now? You have my screen?
I am getting that to you right now. It's in the process.
Okay.
There it goes.
There we go. Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. When I spoke to Chris about this, I thought the presentation I would give would be about the East Texas Human Needs Network and the work that I've done over the last couple of years in developing it and getting lots and lots of players involved. And then I read a little bit further into what he was hoping to achieve, which was helping other individuals with a framework, perhaps, to be able to build those community supports and those relationships, and also an understanding of what collaborative leadership or collaborative governance means. So I actually had to do a little introspection in the work that I have done to analyze it a bit to see if I could achieve those goals, and I hope that at the end of this session that I've actually answered those questions for you. And like Chris said, my contact information will be on the last slide, so you're always welcome to call me or email me. A little bit of history, and I think this is appropriate simply because I've worked throughout my career in all three sectors. The public sector when I was a court interpreter, primarily for defendants in criminal cases. So I worked in the public sector with the district attorney's office. It's a whole different world from the private sector, where I went after that as an editorial director for primary law. So that business is about making money. Private sector is about getting more funds and taking care of your stakeholders and making a profit. Very different from what we're all into right now. And while I was there, I learned about nonprofit. I hadn't needed assistance in the past. So as with all other cases, if you don't need it, you don't even know it exists until somebody points it out. So while I was there, I learned about a community action agency, literacy programs, children's programs, and became involved as a volunteer. And soon thereafter started working for a community action agency as a planner. So ever since then I've been hooked. Nonprofit is my world, it's my passion, it's what gets me up in the morning, and I can't imagine doing anything else, as I'm sure is true for many of you. So the first question would be, why do we need community supports? And I'm going to give you a few minutes, and Craig is going to put up the question so that we can get some of those responses from you. So why do you need community supports? I think an important question. So you can think through that for just a few minutes.
Yes, and you can answer those questions in the chat box to your right. Okay, guys, don't be shy. I don't see anybody answering the question.
Perhaps it's because the answer is obvious. But why do we need community supports? Think about the goals you're trying to achieve and whether or not you feel you can achieve them without those support systems in place. And even get detailed. Think about specifically something within your agency or your community that you're trying to achieve and who it might be that you need at the table.
All right, Christina, for some reason we're not getting much of a response, so we'll throw in another question later, but go ahead and continue.
Sure.
I've got a couple right now. We've got economy of scale. I need community supports to aid in resource networking, to share ideas with one another and to build a stronger community. For linkage, to better serve our clients and hook them up with what is out there for them. To be able to link our consumers to the appropriate resources so that we can provide the most effective services possible. To help more homeless people get out of homeless rat race. To coordinate services based on what the agency can provide. Not all services are provided by one provider, and it takes several. There is power in numbers. And the last one was because one agency or person can't solve a community problem alone.
Very good. Those are all things that we've discussed in our community and the reasons why we developed the Human Needs Network. And in fact, almost verbatim, some of the statements that you guys made were the reasons that we established our network. So in a nutshell, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And this is a quote obviously by Helen Keller, but one that is used very, very often. And it's true. We have limited resources, limited perspective and knowledge, and because of it, we can't do as much as we could if we're all working together. And so here's a great example. This little guy needed some hamburgers. Well, didn't need them. He could smell them. He couldn't get to them. And this other guy, who's a little bit bigger and stronger, helped him get up there so he could reach the hamburgers. And more than likely, he'll knock them down and they'll share them. It's just a silly picture, but I think it demonstrates that together we can do more. So a community is a group of people with diverse characteristics. They're usually linked together through social ties. They share a common perspective, and they engage in joint action, usually within the geographical setting. But as you can see here, these are all different color groupings, and it's perhaps one is working on education, one is working on childcare, transportation, housing, employment, and they're working within their own little circles. They're not yet working together, and so what we're trying to accomplish is to get all of these people on the same page, to get them to know each other, to understand each other's services, to trust each other, and in doing so be able to address the needs of the person who walks in the door, who needs so much more than what they are able to offer on their own. When you're thinking about community, I think for most of us in the nonprofit sector, we have so much on our plate. We often are understaffed and under-resourced, and because of it, we tend to focus on just our job and what's in front of us. And when we have a little bit of time and perspective, we may reach out to those that are in the nonprofit sector as well. So we're working within a group of other people who are just as under-resourced. And they simply don't have the time or the resources to do more or to expand more. So when you're developing a community network, it's truly important to think about all three sectors. And the three sectors, of course, the public sector, which is government, and it's important to think about who is the constituency for each of these sectors. So for the public sector, we're talking about serving the public good, providing transportation assistance, housing, the firefighters and police and all of those infrastructures that we need in the government. including education. Our education system is part of the public sector. In the private sector, we're talking about business. We're talking about both really big corporations and really small mom and pop stores. And so they're serving the owners, the shareholders, and then the people that are doing business with them. And then in our nonprofit sector, which most people call the third sector, what we're really trying to do is fill in the gaps, do the work that the public sector cannot do on their own and that the private sector might be able to help with, but it comes with a price tag. So how can the nonprofit sector do that? So we're all working to serve people who are disadvantaged and to fill in the gaps that are left by the public and the private sectors. And so we're thinking about how do we reach out? How do we reach out to those sectors? It's difficult even within the nonprofit sector sometimes to call someone else and say, hey, let's get together and let's talk about what you're doing and what we're doing. So on a first date, we tend to be pretty nervous, very excited, and it takes quite a bit of courage just to have that first date. We're thinking about, does that person like me? Do we even have any common interests? And really establishing relationships within your community and across sectors is not unlike having a first date. You're going to be nervous, you're probably going to be excited about the potential, and it's going to take a little courage just to make that phone call and get a time to meet with them. But what's really important is to see whether or not you have anything in common. Do you have common interests? And the fact that you call that person means, more than likely, that you already know, you already have something in mind that that person or that organization is doing that would be a benefit to your clients, and perhaps the work that you're doing that could be a benefit to them. But like most first dates, if things don't work out, you just kind of go on your way. But if things get more serious, if you end up meeting 5, 6, or 7 times, you're actually making a commitment to making decisions together. And therein lies the power of having all of those relationships across sectors. So it's very important to find those common interests. For government, their responsibility is to citizens, for order, protection, public services. For business, they also are working with citizens, and there's this concept most of you have heard about, the shared value, which many for-profit corporations, very large for-profit corporations, are now utilizing as their foundation, and it's a concept of shared value, which essentially means that if the citizens in my community are doing well, then we as a business will do well. So it's shared value. So we're still talking about individuals in the community. And then for those of us in the nonprofit sector, is enhancing the quality of life for those very same people who happen to be living in disadvantaged circumstances. So we have all 3 sectors, but we truly have in common that citizen in the middle that is actually being touched by all 3. So it all starts with you, essentially. You need to take responsibility. Don't wait for someone to call you. Make sure that you're thinking about, and you may want to write it down. You may actually write down nonprofits, private sector, public sector, and start listing agencies or individuals that you know in each of those sectors, and start thinking about how your work connects to their work. And then take the first step. Make a phone call. Don't wait for someone else to organize the network. What you may find in the process is that there are 2 or 3 or 4 people in the community trying to do exactly what you're doing. And as soon as you start having those meetings, you'll start hearing other people's names. And those individuals' names will become probably your steering committee, the one that's going to work really closely to ensure that everyone is on the same page. So it all starts with you. Don't wait for someone else to do this. And so relationships, as with anything, and especially we understand it quite strongly in the nonprofit sector, especially those of us working with the homeless community, is you really can't achieve very much unless you have a relationship. And with that relationship comes a very strong connection and a sense of trust. And once you have trust, you can really make a lot of progress. You get to work together, you trust each other, you may take chances that you might not have taken in the past, and you trust that you're in it for the same reasons, that you're really trying to improve the well-being of those in your community. So it takes a lot of time. It's not going to happen in a week or a month or even 3 months. It takes a lot of time to build these connections, but it's very much worth it. It's very much worth the time that it takes. And you have to start somewhere, so you might as well start today with a phone call. So we learned a lot of stuff when we were children about establishing relationships and friends in kindergarten and in first grade, about building relationships and one at a time. One of the things that I think is most important in this case, working throughout all of these sectors, is that you truly need to be curious about the work of others as opposed to being judgmental. What I experienced here as the executive director of a nonprofit in Tyler was sometimes the opinions that we had about other agencies and their motivation and their quality of work came from comments that we received from the clients that we were serving. And so you have to be very careful about how you've based your decisions or opinions of that entity or that individual, and make sure that you take the time to meet that person, to ask them questions, to let them ask you questions, and make up your own mind. Don't base your relationships on other people's opinions or decisions, and I think you will be really, really surprised. You'll find that people are looking to have a relationship with you as well, that people want to be involved, that they want to know more about what you're doing, and that they're trying to find a way to do better work. That was the one thing that in our very first meeting, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, we all found was this realization, and everyone has it, regardless of how challenging it is to do this, we all realize that we simply can't do it alone. And when someone comes up to us and says, I can do X, Y, and Z if you will do A, B, and C, it is such a relief. It is such a relief. And so then the next step is just changing the system. How do you adjust your system so that you can in fact take advantage of each other's resources? So be friendly, make connections, ask lots and lots of questions. Tell people about your work. Make sure that you're out in the community as much as you can be. It's not always possible, but as much as you can be, go out there and get to know people. Accept them where they are. Overcome your fear of rejection. Make sure that you make those phone calls. Be persistent and enjoy getting to know those individuals. We tend to think of people in different sectors or different status, community status, as perhaps being difficult to reach. The truth is we're all human beings and we're all motivated by the same things, and so just enjoy people as you have an opportunity to meet them and move forward. So just like we do with our clients, it all starts with relationships. Building a community network is making sure that all three sectors know each other, understand each other's drives and wants and needs. It must be inclusive, which may mean you're going to be reaching out to an agency, an individual that is perhaps in what one would call competitive position, although we know in nonprofit the needs are always so much greater than the work that we can each do. Nevertheless, it's important that you are very, very inclusive. That means inviting people that might not be the likely candidate to be at the table, but be sure that it's very inclusive and let them decide whether or not they want to be a part of it instead of you excluding them to begin with. The part that's important is that this would be a very flat structure. No hierarchy. There's no one in charge, perhaps. There's somebody who's organizing it, as I do, but once everybody's in the same room, you really have a very flat structure. Everyone that comes to the table has their own levels of expertise and knowledge in their subject matter and their own perspectives. And so for that reason, we're all on level ground. And understanding what the common agenda is, having those conversations until you can all get to the point where you can say, okay, I get it. What we all have in common ultimately is education or addressing poverty, or in the case of many of you, perhaps building a coalition, it's trying to end homelessness or prevent homelessness. Whatever it is, find what that common agenda is. make sure that you all understand it and that you all believe in a joint approach to addressing that problem, and that you're going to work together in order to do that. So what I just described is called collective impact. You've probably heard the terminology collective impact. I came across it reading an article from Stanford Social Innovation Review. And if any of you are social entrepreneurs, I would recommend that you do that. That Stanford Social Innovation Review has some amazing information about new best practices, innovative ways of working in communities to address social problems. So collective impact is what we've been describing. It's diverse organizations that are working together to address very complex social problems, and what could be more complex than poverty. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the East Texas Human Needs Network and how we were formed and how we operate. So where do you start? Often you need to start with someone who is respected in the community, and that's going to be the convener, the one that brings everyone to the table. So you've had the time to meet a lot of people, and there will be multiple individuals in your community doing the same thing. But someone, you all go to this one individual that you believe will have a good chance at inviting people and having everybody show up, or the majority of the people show up. So the person is respected in the community, has established relationships already across all the many sectors, is able to bring together the key leaders, able to work with existing organizations. There's a possibility you may develop new organizations as you work together, but able to build very strong relationships. And so we defined that individual as the Network Weaver, and that is my title, and people laugh at me all the time, but I really think that's what we're doing. There are great organizations in existence. We just need to get together and work together. So we're drawing all of those isolated groups so that we have these working relationships. We're doing it by combining all of those organizing skills with that collaborative leadership that I described a minute ago. And the way that you run your meetings is very, very important. You need a good facilitator. You need everyone to have an opportunity to speak, understanding again that we're all on a flat structure, that everybody has a voice, and letting everyone have a voice during those meetings, give their opinions, redirect, address conflict if it arises, but be able to communicate the very, very complex. Sometimes it helps to prepare for the meeting if you know the subject matter you're going to cover might be controversial. Talk to a couple of the people that you think might be at opposite ends of that opinion, and get an idea of how you can bring them together before you have the meeting. And if you're not the right person to do the facilitation, but you have someone in another organization that can do it, then do that. There's no need to hire anyone in order to do this. If you have a broad enough spectrum of people from cross sectors, there will be 1 or 2 or 3 individuals already in your midst that are going to be good at facilitating meetings. And so the reason we were formed, this is what we have on our website, this is what we share with everyone, this is what we came up with during our first meeting, is the East Texas Human Needs Network was established as a response to meet needs of enormous scale that transcend the capacity of individual agencies. And everyone recognizes that we simply can't do it. And so if we keep doing what we're doing, the numbers, the risk indicators, the factors that we look at in outcomes will be worse in 3 years. If we begin working together, we have an opportunity to move that needle and to do an assessment 3 years from now and see that we've made progress. So it's very important. It's important that you're talking about these huge goals. These are really huge goals. We're not talking about establishing a new agency or putting together a program or establishing memorandums of understanding. We're talking about how do we ensure that 90% of the children in high school graduate as opposed to 50%. Huge goals. So we're talking about really big goals, and that really changes the game. The decisions that you make from that point forward are totally different. It leads to greater impact. Instead of being one little step at a time, you're actually going leaps and bounds. There's great information on this particular concept of collective impact if you're interested. And I have links at the end of the website of the presentation as well. There are links there. But collective impact, the Strive Together network has a great framework for cradle to career measurements and moving the needle, as they call it. And then FSG also has great examples of the work that's being done through collective impact and how it's truly affecting communities. So we broaden the base by making it accessible to more people. And I'm gonna slow down for just a moment to tell you the work that I was doing prior to the Human Needs Network. I was the executive director for an organization called PATH, which stands for People Attempting to Help. And in Tyler, Texas, we were serving about 26,000 people each year with poverty alleviation programs. We had sort of a continuum of care, not a homelessness continuum of care, but one addressing poverty. So we had a prevention component, which was mentoring children. We had emergency assistance, which included rent and utilities and food and medication. Stabilization programs, education programs, housing, case management, a whole array of programs. But I was truly interested in addressing the issues of homelessness in our community, and so we had a homeless coalition, just as many of you do. And we invited people from all sectors to join us, and from education, and from employment, and healthcare, and transportation, and childcare. And it was an open invitation. It was an invitation that was repeated over and over again to get people in those fields to come to the table with us, because we all recognized that it is all of those things that need to be addressed if we're going to end homelessness, all of those things. But because our focus was homelessness and our title was the Smith County Coalition for the Homeless, people didn't feel like it was something they needed to be engaged in, that it was what they needed to invest their time in because they were all so busy. So if you broaden that base of support, you make it accessible to many more people. So that's why we ended up calling this the East Texas Human Needs Network. But the majority of the initial members were people who were working on housing issues. And little by little, we got everyone else involved. So now we do have a great cross-section of all the sectors and all the different services that are required to address poverty and address homelessness. We have a governance structure, and this is actual text from our governance charter. We're guided by collaborative governance and controlled by consensus. Each member agrees to contribute whatever resources they can to carry out action to address the common problem. So everyone that comes to the table is reminded, and we remind people every time we meet, that everyone has their own set of strengths and resources, and whatever it takes for us to reach that, to try to address that common problem that we've all agreed to, it means we all bring our resources to the table and we share freely and openly, and it's working. It's working. And so the power is among autonomous actors in a relatively flat structure, which I've already mentioned a minute ago. But it means everyone who's at the table has their own perspective and their own strength, their own level of expertise, and we respect that. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a voice at these meetings. So in collaborative leadership, each member is a vital link in a collaborative community network. And I guess this is just the statement that says what I described a moment ago, which is share ideas, concerns, and decisions, as well as development and deployment of resources to address the needs of low-income and vulnerable populations. So this is just the statement that we have in our charter, which is essentially what I've described just a moment ago. The way we set it up is we asked all of these entities and agencies to assign a representative, someone that would speak on their behalf, so that united we all have a single voice. So for every nonprofit organization and for businesses and even for government, local governments, we ask for one person to be their representative. It sort of formalizes a little bit of the work that we do. It also gives it strength, and it gives the person who is at the meeting the power, I guess, so to speak on behalf of their agency or entity so that we can move forward so it doesn't slow down the progress. They can have several representatives, but in cases where we actually vote on something, only one vote can come from the organization. And then everyone is participating in committees. The work that we do is done in committee, so it's not done in general meetings. So those elected by the committee members to co-chair then become the steering committee. So we work with leaders across organizational boundaries. At this table we're all the same, and we each bring our own knowledge. Can you tell that I thought this was really important? I think I've said it 3 different ways. This is truly, truly important. This very busy looking table is our structure. East Texas Human Needs Network. Our steering committee is the chairs of these working groups: education, employment, healthcare, and housing. And then within each of these 4 are different partners. So for education, we have people from preschool, K through 12, junior college, 4-year institutions, and adult education programs, and so on and so forth. For employment, we have the workforce centers, we have employment agencies, educational institutions, the Economic Development Council, the Chamber of Commerce, for example. So for each of these, there are multiple partners, but what we often find is that we have someone in education in every single one of these others: employment, healthcare, and housing. The other thing that we've recently found in doing an assessment, which I'll share in a minute, is that transportation, as you all well know, is one of the biggest barriers, I guess you could say, to success and independence for families of low income. And so we're in the process of adding to our 4 standing committees a committee that will focus on transportation. So we have our working groups, our partners, our community members. The steering committee does the governance, the vision, and the strategy. The working groups put together action planning, but the actual execution is actually taking place at each of those partner agencies. The only thing that we've done differently is we've connected them and we've given them a sense of direction so that they're actually working together and accountable to one another. And then community members are all those individuals that are touched by each of these partners. It's kind of a busy looking table, but it's actually pretty simple and straightforward when you drill down into the different boxes. We remind everyone every single time that we meet what our mission is, which is to strengthen the services, to meet diverse human needs through collaboration of individuals and organizations. And the reason we have individuals is that we found a lot of people in our community, a lot of volunteers, people who are not affiliated in any of those 3 sectors. They're community volunteers. They think this is very important, and so they're engaged as well. They attend our meetings, they engage in discussions, they volunteer, they help where they can. So this is something we repeat every time we get together, as is this, which is the description of what collaboration is. Collaboration has to be purposeful. It has to be strategic. It means that you're working together and you're leveraging the resources of everyone there, but it's for the benefit of all. That those activities are coordinated and that we're communicating that information in an environment of trust and transparency. Every time we meet, we go over this, we spend time on it, we actually talk about what does purposeful mean, what does strategic mean, what does benefit of all mean to you, and trust and transparency. So it gives everyone a reminder and grounds us on what our common goals are, why we're all there together. And it takes a few minutes to do that at the beginning of every meeting, but believe me, it is well worth those 5 to 10 minutes that we spend on revisiting the mission and this collaboration statement. We decided a year and a half ago that we needed a great baseline study to determine the needs in the community. And so we designed a comprehensive community needs assessment, and this is all the members of the network that were meeting regularly. And we asked questions about education, employment, healthcare and housing, childcare, transportation, mental health, veterans, and legal needs. Very comprehensive assessment, one that I had done while I was in Virginia at the Community Action Agency, but one that I gave to all of the members of our network and asked them to revisit the questions and see if we were asking the right questions that would help them develop programs, adjust goals in their programs, change anything. So it needed to be very, very detailed, not broad brush, a really detailed assessment. And then we worked with the University of Texas here in Tyler and received institutional review board approval, which gave it the legitimacy that it needs so that we can then use this data across sectors and have it be valued and respected, because it was an assessment that was done with all of the clinical safeguards in place. So these were the questions that we had. We asked questions around all of these different issues. And then this is what we're working on now. What is our next step? So this particular table here was the different questions that we asked under economic well-being, education, employment, healthcare, and housing, and then under childcare. But this is filtered only by those participants that don't have a high school diploma or a GED. So once we knew which ones didn't have a high school diploma or GED, we determined what were their top needs. So for this subpopulation, health insurance, receiving that high school diploma or GED, career and job training, dental care, and then for housing, it was housing repairs and utility assistance, which came in as an equal need. And for child care, it was before and after school care. This image is sort of our depiction of what we're trying to achieve for these individuals that haven't finished high school yet. Is we're trying to help dad, for example, get his high school diploma or GED, which will lead to better employment, hopefully health care, a safer place to live in, and some peace of mind so that they can focus on family. And this is based on that same group of people that don't have the high school degree. We learned 60% of them have minor children. They have minor children at home. So that child that's born into poverty is going into a home where 33% have no high school diploma or GED, where 51% are unemployed, where 50% have no health care coverage, 32% are depressed and are not getting assistance, 31% have chronic illnesses, and then where they're living in unsafe homes or unsafe neighborhoods. This is what we're trying to address. This is one of the things that we're trying to address. And we realized that the Cradle to Career plan or framework is wonderful and it needs to be there, but we actually must help the parent as well as the child. We wouldn't have been able to arrive at this as a goal for us had we not been working together for a year and a half and then done that study. So it's constant work. I mean, there's not a moment that there aren't 10 things that we need to be working on, but we have great individuals working together to do it. This is just a list of the things that we've accomplished since 2010, and I'm not going to read through them because I know I'm running out of time and I need to give you time to ask questions. But you'll have a copy of this presentation so you can look through this and then ask me questions about any one of these items, and I'll be happy to share that. And then the piece that I hadn't shared with you yet is that we've done this with a zero budget. We are not a nonprofit. We are not a for-profit. We're not under someone else's fiscal sponsorship. We're simply a group of people, each of us doing a part of what our job is, our passion is, but coming together in order to do it together. So we've been able to do all of this with a zero budget. These are some of the sources that I mentioned a minute ago, which you will have access to, you will be able to link to. And then this is my contact information. So I guess I'll turn it over to Chris so we can start answering some questions for you.
Christina, right off the top there was a question saying, how difficult was it to get people to become accustomed to the consensus, the way you were doing things?
It was really easy. This was far easier than all of us expected it to be, and I think it's because we actually had common ground. We have much more in common than we have differences. And so as long as we all focus on we're trying to address poverty, we're trying to address the needs of that person who's going to sleep and either doesn't have a roof over their head or food to eat, if we all keep that in focus, it's much, much easier to come to consensus.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Christina. Well, at this time, that was the question that Craig just mentioned. That was the only question we have this time. So let's take a couple of minutes. If you would like to post a question, you can. So right on your right-hand side of your display for the webinar, you'll see a little box down at the bottom that says questions. Please post in there what question you have for Christina. If you don't have one, that's great. It was a great presentation. And just really some good information around organizing and just pulling people to the table, everybody sitting down together on an equal playing field, and really just trying to solve these very complex community problems. So I'm going to, while we're getting some questions, I will go ahead and put out another poll. What we are looking for from our Bloc talk as well is, hold on one second, let me make sure all right.
Christina, we've had a couple questions. You mentioned the ETHNN committee. How does one join the committee? Is this through the website?
Yes, anyone can come to our website. Anyone can come to the meetings. You don't even have to be a member or a part of any entity. On our website, we have a membership section, and there are forms there, pretty simple forms for nonprofits, and then for individuals and corporations. So anyone who wants to be at the table is welcome to become a member and to register for meetings and start attending.
Okay. How exactly was this accomplished on a $0 budget?
Well, I think because we each brought what we needed to the table. I happened to be able to put together a web design, and so all the information that I share on our website I'm able to do on my own, and there are people in the community that can do that. When we were designing the community needs assessment, it was all of us working together, printing the paper. I think the junior college might have printed all of the forms for us to work off of. Most of our meetings are led through PowerPoint presentations, sort of as our guiding, moving us quickly through the material, because we have an hour and a half once a month to meet, and so that doesn't cost any money. And we don't really have any expenses. Everybody goes back to their office and does their part.
Yeah. Do people in your community view homelessness differently now? Is it now an issue for everybody to help solve?
I'm not sure that I wish that was the case. I think that we have a far greater understanding than we did in the past across sectors. We certainly have engagement from organizations that were not a part of the Homeless Coalition, but that are now involved in this and see their role. We had two big medical institutions, the junior college, those are the things that come to mind, people in city government that really didn't believe that the issue was as bad as the issue is, people in the medical field, education, all of them have, the ones that are coming to our meetings have a far greater understanding, and they see the role that they play in trying to alleviate the issues of homelessness.
Great. Craig, were there any others?
I do not see any more.
Well, great. And again, Christina, thank you so much for the information you were able to get us. It really speaks to what you guys are doing up there in Tyler, and just pulling the community together. And that is just it's beautiful. It's great. So one last poll that I want to send out to everybody is, we are trying to pull more information from different best practices around the state. I just want to get a little bit more information from you guys around what other topics you'd like to hear about. I did kind of have to limit this response a little bit, just because we can't do a fill in the blank, but we kind of can do a check the box. So I'm going to put this out there to you guys and have you guys let me know what kind of things you'd like to hear about in the future. Also, we wanted to send out the link for our survey for everybody to take. And it is in the chat box, so you can look in that chat box and take the link, get us some feedback, as well as we can also send it out via email since we do have a list for those that are attending this webinar at this time. So it looks like right now the poll is still in progress, but many people have questions around housing services or like to get more information around housing services. So you guys keep filling out that poll. And I'm going to put my information up here. So as you know, we're going to be doing these webinars every month, bringing you other best practices from around the state, around mental health components, housing services, case management services, community organizing, such as today, and then, of course, work and employment programs. So if you have any other specific programs you'd like to hear about, or that you'd like for us to do some research on and possibly get you a presenter from that program, please shoot me an email and let me know what program you've heard about or what practice you've heard about and who we could pull to the table to kind of answer some of your questions. So that's great. The poll's kind of wrapped up, and we have definitely 81% people would like to hear more information around housing services. And then some work and employment programs as well. So we will start working on that for next month and figure out how we can get you guys some more information on some other communities out there that just are doing a great job around housing services and work and employment. So finally, I just want to say thank you to Christina again for being here and giving us some of her time. You guys feel free to email her any questions you might have. And we will also, when we do our email out here in a little bit, we'll also include a copy of her PowerPoint to go out to everybody as well. So thank you one and all for attending, and please make sure you fill out our survey and give us some feedback. Let us know what we can do better. Thank you guys very much. Talk to you later.